Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Senator. Welcome to the Senate Finance Committee. Today is Wednesday, April 2nd, and we are not having any hearings, but we are doing a voting list. And we are going to start today with concurrences, and I think I'm going to start with Nathan.
Correct. Okay, first up is Senate Bill 157. This is the Maryland Disability Service Animal Program being established. So Senate Bill 157 establishes the Disability Service Animal Program in the Department of Disabilities. The House amendments narrow the definition of eligible individual to be only residents of the state. They also reduce the responsibilities of the Department of Disabilities and then limit funding for the program by establishing a mandated appropriation of $25,000 annually. And finally, the amendments make the bill contingent on the Department of Disabilities notifying DLS that the department has staff sufficient to administer the program. The sponsor of the primary sponsor of the bill, Senator Simon Ayer, is happy with the amendments, and a motion to concur would be appropriate in that case.
Thank you, Senator Mouth. Second, Senator Ellis. All in favor of concurring on Senate Bill 157? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
So the next bill is Senate Bill 749, which requires the State Board of Dental Examiners to issue a license to a dentist or a dental hygienist licensed in another state within 15 days after receiving the applicant's completed application, if that applicant otherwise meets the requirements for licensure. The House amendments actually mirror an amendment that Senator Kramer offered on the floor for the cross-file bill. The House amendment to the Senate bill requires the Department of Health to adopt a plan for a temporary or permanent authorization to practice a health occupation in the state for individuals who are not licensed in the state, hold a license in another state that is equivalent, and left employment with a federal agency after January 20th, 2025. So the amendment would require the department to submit a plan to specified committees by October 1st of this year. To align the Senate bill with the House bill, a motion to concur would be appropriate.
Move to concur.
Thank you, Senator Kramer and Senator Mounts. All in favor of the concurrence on Senate Bill 749? Thank you. Unanimous.
Yes, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 209 is a departmental bill that extends the termination date for the State Commission of Real Estate Appraisers, appraisal management companies, and home inspectors within the Maryland Department of Labor until July 1, 2029, and requires the commission to submit a report by July 1, 2028. The committee had moved the date to July 1, 2029, because there is the report due July 1, 2028, and it incentivizes that report getting done. The House amendment extends the termination date until July 1, 2031. A motion to not concur would be appropriate.
Move not to concur.
To concur in a second. All in favor of the unfavorable? Unanimous. Okay.
Not concurring, yeah. We're not going to conference on it at this time.
Next, I believe I have a motion from Senator Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to motion or move to reconsider House Bill 1310.
That was yesterday, and the reason for your motion is that you were not able to vote. You weren't here to vote.
Correct.
I guess, so I need a second? I need a second. Second, Senator Hayes. This was House Bill 1310. The,
Oh, not on.
no, it was the one about the drug depository, the prescription
Prescription drug repository program.
The one that died 5-5.
Yeah, 5-5, yeah. And Senator Washington wasn't here, and he wants to vote for it.
Don't you have to vote for it?
No. No, not, remember we heard from Mason's rules that a person that was absent can request a reconsideration.
Okay.
So,
Right.
so I have a motion and a second. I have a motion and a second to do a reconsideration.
Unless there is a challenge to the reconsideration, a vote doesn't have to doesn't have to be taken.
Oh,
It can
okay, we
just-
don't have to vote because.
Right, it can-
So there's no motion not to reconsider, okay.
So if there's a challenge, Madam Chair, to not reconsider,
We would have to take a vote.
There would be
Then
a
we'd have to
vote.
take a vote, right.
each challenge create a new vote.
It would be a vote on whether to reconsider or not. So if you challenged it, then we'd have to vote and see if we have a majority that do want to reconsider.
I think, I'm not gonna challenge.
Okay, I'm waiting. Okay.
Just for future use.
Do we want to hear anything else about the bills? Dr. York is here, if you have any other questions for Dr. York before we vote. Dr. York, will you come to the table? Senator Ellis would like to ask some questions about House Bill 1310.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Ms. York, Doctor, so my explanation of my vote yesterday was about the chemistry of prescription drugs, because most are chemical compounds that have a use-by date and expiration. And I'm concerned when prescriptions, say, leave the chain of custody of the professionals. Currently, a prescription is manufactured. It goes through the PBM, benefits manager, whatever, or supplier, whatever you want to say, and they have that system that gets it to the pharmacist who gets that prescription to the patient. When that patient picks up that prescription, he or she knows that that prescription is pure, the expiry date on the bottle is sound, with a new prescription. So if we go in under the conditions of this bill and introduce, say, the patient who received that prescription and don't use all of it for a reason, and it goes back in the system to another patient. A possibility of someone having 2 bottles of that prescription, right? Say, oh, this one isn't full, let me put them together. And those 2 bottles, different expiration date, are mixed. How would the patient receiving that new prescription through this process in this bill have any indication that that particular medicine they're receiving might be contaminated?
Thank you, Senator. The way the program works is that it only accepts drugs in their original containers, and they have to be tamper-resistant containers, or I guess there's certain repackaging elements, but they have very strict requirements in terms of the safety of the like bubble wraps or things like that. You can think of, like single dosing that are never exposed to any environment. All of those have to be clearly marked with lot numbers, expiration dates, and all of those need to be available to the repository when they receive that. So there's a very strict rule on receiving drugs that have maintained the integrity of the supply chain, and it's only available to unopened drugs in tamper-resistant containers. So I think every level of safety is what they look for there. And I think your example of having the patient return it is often not the common example. What's the most common example is a hospital or a nursing home that just has a very large stock of unopened drugs, and then instead of throwing them away, they donate, like what they're usually disposed of either through incineration or other methods. Instead, they are donated to a program where they can find patients that need those drugs.
Okay, so why would a hospital or nursing home get those prescriptions and donate them? Because it costs them, right? What situations?
I think it's just their standard protocol. It's more work than it's worth. It's not. They're not getting money. That's a big part of it. Is like this is. They're not getting paid to do this extra work. Usually these entities are doing this in a non-for-profit fashion, kind of mission-based. So it's worth their while to go through the work of identifying patients that can use those drugs. But for these larger entities, they're just not in the business of redistributing those drugs.
Yeah. So they donate because they have no need for it.
Right. They would throw them away otherwise.
Maybe, yeah, close to expiration,
Yeah.
whatever.
But still safely packaged in a tamper-resistant container.
But close to expiration.
That's generally,
Yeah.
they have a
Okay.
cycle that they
Okay.
go through.
Got it. So one last question. So a lot of care for psychotropic medicines, drugs, they have a release, time release. And the older those drugs get, the more, say, inefficient it might be in releasing the, basically. So a patient who might think they're getting a particular drug to act a certain way that they're used to under this scenario, is it possible that a old medicine that's close to expiration or expire might have a release that's not expected by that patient?
Just speaking from general knowledge, I would say that the expiration date is overly safe. So repositories work on the expiration date on the containers, and when a manufacturer is applying an expiration date to the container, that is a worst case scenario. So that is the safest possible expiration date, and the repositories follow that expiration date. So I would expect all the medications to maintain any kind of integrity in terms of distribution.
Okay. Well, yeah, those are my concerns. So
Great.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have any other questions? Yep. Senator?
Yeah, just wanted to, I guess, follow up on Senator Ellis's point. I know we had talked about this earlier, and I was doing some research in the couple minutes that we had before lunch for this. And what Mr. York had said was correct. Like in the current statute, it says it needs to be unopened, sealed in a tamper-evident unit dose packaging and have an expiration date of at least 90 days from the date that the drug is donated. So there's at least like a 3-month window that theoretically the medication can be used. There's some other safeguards that are in the current statute when this was first, I think, passed. Like it says they have to obliterate any patient-specific information that's on the labels of any donated drugs. So there's at least some of those protections in place too. So, just to kind of follow up on the questions that you had earlier and such. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb. Senator Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The drugs that are coming from out of state, is that from any state or certain states?
So there's only a few entities that can do this work at scale. And one of the groups that we're looking at in particular is called the Serum Group, and they have the independent pharmacy or pharmacy that they're paired with. They have arrangements to receive drugs. Basically, after this bill passes, they can receive drugs from Maryland. They currently have comparable relationships with, I would say, 4 or 5 other states that can donate in, but they have to create this sort of relationship first. The state has to have this kind of program before folks can donate to that.
And the safeguards that we have in statute here in the state of Maryland, do those mirror in those other states?
Yes. The drug quality concerns are addressed in all states. So they always have to be in these, again, tamper-resistant, original packaging with, non-expiration date. They also, if it has, certain requirements around supply chain, so you can think of like cold supply chain and stuff like that, they're generally prohibited from dispensing those drugs. Like if there's any question that the integrity of the supply chain was violated, they are extra careful with those drugs, and currently I don't think do any work with those drugs. The last thing I would say is a pharmacist verifies every drug before it goes out. So it is dispensed by a pharmacist, and there is kind of a final check on quality before it goes to the patient.
So any medication that needs to be refrigerated is not included in?
Currently, I'm not sure that there's anything in the law that necessarily prohibits that. I know our Maryland repository program does not allow it, but I do know that the repository has the capability of maintaining refrigeration. I don't think our law allows them to distribute that into Maryland, but they can take those donations.
And my last question,
Yep.
the drugs, are they mailed or driven? Or
Yeah, right now it's a mail order program. Yeah, okay. So patients can just log onto the website. It's something that we'll share information on if this program is created, and they just log on. They put their prescription in the same you would for any mail order pharmacy, and then it arrives at their door or any other address that they provide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Can I have a motion favorable on this reconsideration of House Bill 1310? Who moved? Senator Washington and Senator Guile. Tammy, let's call the roll.
House Bill 1310 favorable. Vice Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Ellis.
I just want to explain my vote before I vote. I've always tried to think, when in doubt, do without, and it sounds, I have too much doubt on this bill as far as the process. I was described in the law, and Dr. York, as an ideal situation. When things are out there in the real world, a lot of things aren't ideal, and I just feel uncomfortable. And individuals that will be getting these medicines are the poorest of the poor. And I'm just tired of poor people always getting people's reject. As a society, if we can't give people, I believe, standard stuff that rich people or regular people, middle-class people can get, I don't think we should be giving it to them. And I just have serious doubts about how this will be implemented. And so for that, I will vote no.
Senator Mountain?
No.
No. Senator Jackson?
No.
No. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Guile?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Lamb?
Yes.
Yes. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes. 6-3, bill passes.
So today, House Bill 1310 passed, 6-3. Thank you. Okay, I think next we're going to take Senate Bill 427 if we have people from the governor's office here to explain the bill. Do we have?
Which bill, Madam Chair?
Senate Bill 427. Is this the decade bill?
This is the Decade Act.
We haven't, yeah, it's a little complicated, so.
You should also see in your packet of reprints a chart that looks like this. It's a sectored chart as opposed to a reprint because the bill is very long. I didn't give you a 140-page reprint on this one. But much of the bill is being stricken, so we'll work off of this, and it does have references to the reprint. I have a copy of the reprint if anyone would like to see it.
So we're strictly going off of this chart, right?
We're going off of this chart as to explain the bill. As well as we have Brad Fallon from the governor's office and Jennifer Lahat from Commerce here to help with any questions as we go through this. And this bill has already been voted in this form by B&T. Finance is secondary on the bill. So the Decade Act came in with kind of a list of 29 sort of programs that were altered by the bill. This late in session, the governor's office or the administration was asked to pick their most important priorities. So 10 of those priorities are still remaining in the bill. On the first page, all of the things that are described here are being struck from the bill. And that takes us all the way through page 17 of the bill. On page 2, item 5 is also struck from the bill. Starting with item 6, that's the first substantive change that the bill is making to the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority.
You're going really fast down these. Are we going down the columns? We're going down the columns, right?
So down the rows, they're numbered on the left side. The
Right.
first 4 rows represent language that is being struck from the bill.
Okay.
And that's for the first 17 pages of the bill. And we can address questions at each number if you would like, or we can go all the way through. All the way through, okay.
Chair thinks we should go all the way.
Understood. All right, so then on page 2, item 6, MEDAF is the first substantive change that is being made. This provision repeals the authority and renames MEDAF to the Maryland Economic Competitiveness Fund, repeals certain limits on the assistance requirements for local guarantee and matching funds and loan terms, and lets Commerce set those terms. There is this reference to the commerce industry list that is being taken out of the bill. You'll see references throughout this sheet to it. That is being removed in all of those locations. And, item 7 is similarly struck from the bill. Item 8 is the Maryland Small Business Development financing authority. The bill repeals that authority and the related funds, but replaces it with the Economic Inclusion Fund, which will do the same function. It's consolidating those 4 funds into one fund, and increases the maximum assistance that allows Commerce to contract for services. Again, underneath that description related to the commerce industry list, that has been struck from the bill. On page number 3, everything on this page, items 9, 10, 11, and 12 have all been struck from the bill. Page 4, item 13 relates to Maryland Economic Development Corporation, Medco, and they're transferring from Commerce to Medco administration of the RISE zones and the Build Our Future grant pilot program. And they're also making some changes to those programs. So they're increasing zone renewal from 5 years to 10 years, removing the requirement that business have a nexus with the institution and length of being in business. Requirement to be in the commerce industry sector, that requirement is struck. Increases rental assistance from 3 years to 5 years, and eliminates matching funds of the institution or locality. And then the Build Our Future grant pilot program, the bill would limit awards to, not to commerce industry sectors, but prioritize awards to RISE zones and extends their termination date to June 30th, 2030. On item 14, these provisions relate to TEDCO, and this provision alters the disinvestment requirements and requires TEDCO to instead adopt regulations for when a business no longer meets eligibility requirements. Under current law, TEDCO is required to immediately disinvest when a business no longer meets eligibility requirements, which can cause a lot of issues and often for the business to fail. So this allows a little bit more discretion for TEDCO to be able to remove their investment in a more gradual format or way that they decide, so that they're not just killing the businesses when they are required to disinvest. Moving on to page 5, items 15 and 16 are struck from the bill. Item 17 is the Child Care Capital Support Revolving Loan Fund, which the bill is going to limit eligibility for when the money's, requires requirements to be met before the money can be used for renovations. Moves from a maximum 5-year loan to a minimum 5-year loan. Allows $50,000 for family or large family child care to be converted to a grant, and it switches from MSDE to Commerce, the authority to prioritize criteria with top priority for increasing slots than those located in areas lacking spots. Item 18 is struck from the bill. On page 6, item 19 is struck from the bill. Item 20, so the video lottery terminal money right now, SWAMBA gets 0.75% of those VLT funds. As adopted by BNT, SWAMBA gets 1.5% of those funds. As adopted by BNT, that fund would be split across MSBDFA and SWAMBA to 40% for MSBDFA and 60% for SWAMBA. In dollars, that equates to approximately $4 million for the MSBDFA fund and $6 million for SWAMBA. Basically, MSBDFA is oversubscribed, whereas SWAMBA has difficulty spending its funds, so this reallocation just allows the funds to be better used overall. Items 21 and 22 below are struck from the bill. On page 7, item 23, that's been struck from the bill and no change to current law. As with all of the things that were struck from the bill, there is no change to current law. Item 24 related to the biotech investment incentive and innovation investment incentive. So there's some changes being made, increasing the value of enhanced credits, repealing enhanced credits for these 4 jurisdictions, allow pass-through entities tax at the entity level to claim and allocate credits among members, conforms ITSE opportunity zone enhancements to BITSE enhancements, and extends ITSE for tax year 2025 through 29. The total funding under this provision is not altered, though. On page 8, item 25 is the community investment tax credit. Increases the value from 50% to 60% of eligible contribution if the project or entity is in a RISE zone or catchment area. So this is just really increasing by 10% what the value of that tax credit. Item 26, the R&D tax credit, extends the program from 2026 through 2030, and the references to the commerce industry sector would be removed. Item 27 has been struck from the bill and there's no change. Item 28 struck from the bill and no change. And the final page 9, item 29 is the Buy Maryland cybersecurity. Makes this fully refundable, increases the annual aggregate purchase from single seller, includes businesses with 50 or more EEs to qualified buyers, include businesses with 5 to 10 million in annual revenue to qualified sellers, repeals requirement that 25% of the amount of cyber services be used, repeals the expert panel that assists commerce, codifies the purpose, and sunsets the program after 2029. So that is, in short, what the bill now does and what remains in the bill as passed by B&T. I'm sure there are questions, and that's why we have Brad and Jen here to help.
Vice Chair Hayes, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad or Jen, can you guys give us an idea of what benefits will result in moving the RISE zone from commerce over to Medco?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The fundamental kind of philosophy behind that is just reorganizing of state government. There's been a bunch of administration type of efforts on reorganization of the Department of Commerce and other kind of the cooks in the kitchen, as we call them. Right now, it's kind of all mixed together. A bunch of folks, whether it's DHCD or Labor or Medco or TEDCO or Department of Commerce, are all kind of playing in the same sandbox with programs that overlap one another. To the greatest extent, Medco has the best and most versatile tools for particularly innovation infrastructure creation. Commerce has some of those programs, and Build Our Future is kind of like the complement to the infrastructure programs being created, right? It is rental assistance around kind of the hubs where we're building these things. We're looking to centralize those in Medco, so a single entity is able to put packages together, but also kind of have multiple tools at their disposal and be a single point of entry should folks be looking for some of that financing assistance in building out their infrastructure. And so plugging them all together just enhances efficiencies in our perspective.
No, I appreciate that. And in box 8, it says the repeal of Ms. Bitsfa. Is that what you guys are planning on doing? And what impact will that have on the current setup and the assistance that they're able to provide to small business?
Right. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So we are repealing the authority, which is the private sector body that has oversight over that program. It's also a little confusing because the way that program was set up in statute is it's essentially drafted as 4 separate programs for the 4 different capabilities that Ms. Bidfa can provide. So what we have done in this bill is essentially restructure Ms. Bidfa, the program, as one program with those 4 different capabilities. So the program itself functionally is not going to be changing. The change will be that the private sector authority will no longer exist. That authority is being repealed, and the Secretary of Commerce will have the approval oversight for the fund.
What do you mean by the private sector authority?
It's an appointed body of individuals in the private sector right now and it does not impact so right now, that program is run by a contractor on the department's behalf. This does not impact that structure at all. The contractor would continue to manage the program, and the contractor manages the program, but it still has to be approved. All the transactions have to be approved by the authority.
This is just streamlining, Mr. Vice
Yeah.
Chair. Right now, we have a contract with MMG that processes the money out. We also have the programmatic staff that needs to provide approvals, plus we have an authority that has to provide approvals. All of these, for the most part, are governor appointees telling another governor appointee internally before you can move forward on this program that General Assembly's giving you authority for. We need to check all these boxes. This is us just lifting that piece to make sure we get the money out the door a little bit quicker.
Got you. And so earlier this session, this committee passed Senate Bill 1008 to give them greater flexibility in their guarantees. Can you guys, not now, because I'm just throwing it at you, but if you guys could take a look at that and see what impact that may have. We literally just passed it this session.
Yep.
So that would be helpful.
Yeah, we've been watching it, and we're good with the bill.
Got you. And then the last thing is, you guys are proposing to eliminate the Maryland Economic Commission, right? Maryland
That was
Economic
struck from-
No longer in the bill.
Oh, that's no longer in the bill?
Yeah.
So those people, those persons, including my former council person that we appointed, will remain in place?
They will.
All right, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Senator Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah. So there's, can you just tell me the purpose of the bill? I know there's a jointly assigned bill, and we're secondary on it. So can you just give us like just something?
Yeah, the
why
basic, if you dig into it, this could have been a ton of little departmentals.
Correct.
Package.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, this is looking at programs. We looked to repeal programs that we didn't have a sufficient ROI for. We've been going through as kind of part of the budgetary process over the last year, figuring out what we're getting for each.
Right.
Particularly for the ones that are very undersubscribed. We took a look, all right, do we need to repeal it, defund it, or do we need to try to fix them?
Right.
Pretty much all of these programs in here have some sort of undersubscription. And so this is just structurally changing the majority of them to make sure, okay, let's make this as appealing and make sure we're actually getting the investment that we're putting into this. The only other piece that directs funding is the MISBIDFA piece. There is a piece that affects funding directly to MISBIDFA. In the last few years, MISBIDFA has been underfunded and they've needed more based off their demand. SMWOBA, on the other hand, has a current balance of about $43.5 million. They're also a revolving loan fund, so money comes back into it, so they're more self-sustaining. What we propose to do is that 1.5% right now of video lottery terminal revenue goes into SMWOBA. We had proposed to split that 50-50, so about $10 million would go into both pots. B&T changed that to a 40-60, which would mean about $8 million a year going into MISBIDFA. So it's a dedicated revenue source ultimately for MISBIDFA.
Yeah, and I was looking at the fiscal note. It says it's a net effect through as we go out. Is that means that we're saving money by doing this, or is that it's saying in fiscal year 28 about 33.1 million?
So they had taken in some current year appropriations and projected that out. They don't have a mandate. Nothing in the bills initially. There was money saved by repeals.
Right.
In this, there is, as far as I can think through, the only impact is the extension of the R&D tax credit program.
Right. Can I switch over to number 17, which is the child care capital support revolving loan fund? you're moving it from MSD, well, moving part of it from MSDE to MDE? Is that what I heard?
No, it's at Commerce Now.
Is that Commerce Now? Okay.
We had initially looked to put it at MSDE, but they don't have the grant writing capabilities anyway, so there was no,
So is that Commerce right now still? It stays
That's
there?
right.
Got it, okay.
This is just, we've gone through several years of it. Jen can speak more informative to me than I can, but we have had some problems with, okay, what are the expenditures actually going to? Are we seeing more slots entering the market? So just in recognition of the shortage on slots, there's just some structural changes to it.
Got it. And I just want to go, I also wanted to go to just some clarifications on the R&D tax credit. It looks like we're extending the program from 2026 to 2030. There's, sometimes we put in a lot of these sunset provisions to review some of these programs. Over the last, because I think we last did it probably 4 or 5 years ago, have we seen new companies take advantage of it? Because for such a long time, we see the same companies come in and take advantage of the R&D tax credit. Are we going to see newer companies take advantage of these? And how would you manage that under this legislation?
Right. Thank you, Senator. So the last time we did, I can't remember exactly what year it was that we did the last sunset extension, but the General Assembly also made some changes to the program to do a set aside for small businesses as well. What we have seen in the years since that was implemented it's been really successful because we have been able to give those small businesses really, if not the full amount that they've applied for, they have gotten very close to the full amount that they've applied for, where the program is prorated, and so they essentially don't have to compete within the proration as the big businesses that are applying as well. I have to go back and look and see if we've gotten new businesses that have come in as a result of that. I, to be honest, have not looked specifically at what businesses are applying year to year and if we're getting new ones coming in, but we can certainly take a look at the list of recipients and compare that.
Yeah, and thanks. I mean, I thought that we also, when we changed that, I was in Ways and Means when we did some of that work. Yeah, I thought we said you have to have a report once this on an annual basis.
Yep, we do. We report it out on an annual basis. It's in our consolidated incentives report, which goes every year. It's posted on our website, and then we also, that report is posted on our website, but then we also post recipients of our programs in Finance Tracker on our website each year as well.
Yeah, I know the Vice Chair asked about Ms. Bidfa, but I want to ask about SMOBA. For so many years, we've seen this program be funded, but then money gets transferred to other causes or issues that happen around the state. And then you also mentioned that it's just not working well. It's just they aren't able to expend all the dollars that's allocated to it. What's the structural issue there? And now you're moving into Ms. Bidfa. Can you just explain that a little bit and why we always have to take money from this organization?
Yeah, it's a completely fair point about how it's been rated in the past. Right now, so Commerce holds on to the money until a fund manager says, hey, we need more money, essentially. Right now, they have done that to an extent. There's about $41 million sitting in an account where they basically said, hey, we're earmarking this for each fund manager, but they've been unable to take it just because of the demand that they're facing to get things out. They haven't complained about a structural reason for that. It's more so just like how much money is coming in. They're getting about $20 million a year right now, and so it's piling up a little bit. The reason for the kind of the complicated language on the fund structures and how we did that was so that we don't have to come back to do this so frequently, that they come down to a central fund. So if SMOBA needs more money or if Ms. Bidfa needs more money, there is a process to move that money in the same account, but so it stays between one of those two programs with similar amounts.
And that means you don't need us to move it. It moves. Well, you didn't need us before actually, because it just moved anyway.
But that way it's not like, we're rating it from something that was held by a certain fund manager or something. That way it's just like clear the way it all moves.
And if I can add one piece on that too, is the fund managers they have been getting out around 20 million a year or a little above 20 million a year. So they are getting the money out the door at the same pace that they are receiving new money. But because it is a revolving loan fund, they're then getting their loan repayments back in as well. So it's just, yeah, keeping up with all of the money. And
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mounts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just refer to it as number 24. Deals with the biotech investment incentive and innovation investment incentive. Can you talk to me about that a little bit? It was explained, the way I heard it was that Garrett, Dorchester, and Somerset were getting pushed out of that. Did I hear that correctly?
Although Jen did just point out to me, I know there's been a ton back and forth, so we're working with the talented analysts to correct it. What B&T did yesterday was that both ITSE and BITSE had a prioritization, or I'm sorry, they're an enhancement for the tax
Itsy
credit.
bitsy?
No, sorry, those are the programs, biotech and innovation. Like the spider. Yeah. Both ITSE and BITSE are structured very similarly. Biotech obviously is just biotech innovation and incentive tax credits more broad. There's an enhancement for those counties that you just mentioned. They haven't been used, I believe, ITSE 2020, BITSE 2021. We were just streamlining because once you have an enhancement for everything, it's just nothing. So we were just kind of streamlining those. The case was made to us by some of your rural colleagues. So we actually came back and said, hey, don't take that out. Just could you put it back in?
Right.
Yesterday, B&T voted to say, hey, we actually won't strike that. We'll just leave in. And I think just in all the back and forth, because it's a very large bill, that didn't get struck out. So we'll coordinate that. She just pointed it out.
Yeah.
But our
May be
intention
correct.
and what we would ask for the committee.
Because I know they've been utilized at times and not utilized, and part of the issues with those counties is they're trying to attract that investment. And that's why it's there, to try to get it. They've had some come, some have not done so well, but it's been a cornerstone to their they have research parks, research industry areas, and things like that. And that was interesting, because I thought the way the bill was described is that they were being eliminated, but they're not being eliminated.
No, just the enhancement initially was going to be eliminated, but that'll be back in.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think when the bill was first introduced, there was some conversation and some concern around the enterprise zones, but I don't see anything here.
So there was a bunch of confusion about it, which is completely made sense. The BRFA originally had cut out the enterprise zones, not this program.
Gotcha.
It had sought to repeal some other programs that B&T decided not to repeal. Enterprise zone in the BRFA was fully restored. The only change that I believe is incoming on this is just a backdating piece to the enterprise zone program that was worked out with the presiding officer's offices and USM, I believe.
Okay. And then I believe last year I had a bill, and I think we took the limit of how many ride zones can exist in Maryland off. Did that?
I believe Baltimore City was able to have an additional horizon, if I recall correctly, on where it landed. But I can double check on it.
Yeah, because here on 18, it looked like you're taking the seed community development, the seed anchor institution grant, and you're just prioritizing the funding. It's not, is it limiting it just to the ride zones?
No, it's just prioritization, but Senator McCray and Budget and Tax actually asked for that to be removed, and we were fine with it.
Got you, okay.
Yeah, so that's
Because
actually
they're not
changed.
everywhere, right? They're
Right.
Like, it's limited, only certain schools have ride zones.
Right.
And, I know a lot of institutions that would like to benefit from it. Got it. Cool. That's all, Madam Chair.
Senator Mounts?
This is more for staff, but what was so we're second on this. What was the B&T vote? It's not on the computer.
It was unanimous in B&T on their vote sheet.
Thank you.
So I feel like this is a lot 4 days before the end of session. And I can tell you've done a lot of work from the bill that came in until, however many pages, 9 pages of changes on here. But I guess I'm trying to get, so the point of this is to streamline our programs that help businesses to develop. So they've been partially in commerce and partially in TEDCO and MEDCO, and
That's right.
and so now we're bringing everything basically to TEDCO. Is that what we're doing?
No, the only TEDCO piece is on their disinvestment. We're moving some things to MEDCO that are tied to infrastructure.
Okay.
We're kind of improving the programs that are still at Commerce. Really, the way that I sorted out in my head is that it's cooks in the kitchen and they each all have a station. The Commerce station has been kind of pulled in all different directions on financing, infrastructure. Really, the core of their agency, though, is looking at marketing, job creation, advertising for the state, closing deals, bringing in and connecting them.
Okay.
We have continued to try to kind of move them more in that direction with the recent reorganization as well, and some leadership there. This is just kind of the structural component to that, of making sure that we are grouping together like programs.
Ultimately, is how much additional money was in the budget for this bill over what would have been for the current structure?
So the bill has introduced saved money with the repeals. The only thing that costs money, right, as a reprinted, the only thing that costs money is the extension of the R&D tax credit program.
Extension of which R&D?
The Research and Development Tax Credit Program.
I couldn't hear you.
It was scheduled to sunset otherwise, so it'll be out year, not this year. So the fiscal note should be zero on this.
Okay, thank you. Senator Washington?
Yeah, just the last question, Madam Chair, because I was here when we created the RISE zones, and they were used just to be around the universities. Some of our municipalities kind of complained that they aren't able to take advantage of them, although some of their businesses interact with the universities, or there's federal entities or businesses that are nearby. Has there been consideration of expanding the RISE zone? And is that in this bill? Because I didn't see it as part of the.
Yeah, well, we ended up doing so.
And can you tell us what the current radius is right now from the?
Yeah,
from
it
the
was
school?
extended actually at the request of several years ago at the request of College Park, because when they built out the Discovery District, they needed a much larger space.
Correct.
I can look it up real quick, but then that cap now.
I don't know if there's a set in statute cap on the size. I can't remember offhand on the size.
I remember there being one, or at least initially.
There is.
There is, and I know that it doesn't go far enough for some of us, and I'm speaking to College Park, actually.
And what we did is 500 acres. I just looked it up. So they expanded out, it was like much smaller before.
Correct.
So
Because some of them are very small.
Right.
what we did do, we worked with actually a consultant to help move this through from the city to kind of look at what all these other states have been doing. The RISE Zone program has not been performing. The rental assistance barely gets used. When you were still, I believe, vice chair in Ways and Means, when they took away the property tax credit, the Build Our Future program initially came in kind of as the replacement of recognizing that these are startup companies, they're not building or owning their own buildings. If we build the infrastructure, we can then populate them with some of these hubs.
Yeah.
That's the prioritization from there. What we did find, though, in other jurisdictions where they've had this work a lot better is that they, kind of exactly what you're speaking to, they have a broader community focus. So in the bill, we are proposing to create a RISE zone catchment area, which is a 5-mile radius around the core institution with a RISE zone that gets prioritization for certain community development dollars. Seed Anchor Institution Fund was one of those. At the request of Senator Craig, I mentioned we ended up pulling that out. Right now, it has a community investment tax credit, but have an enhancement and prioritization under it.
I like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions on this bill? Okay. We want a motion?
Yep. Move favorable as amended.
Thank you, Senator Hayes. Senator Ellis, second. All in favor of, let's see, I've forgotten the bill number.
Senate Bill 427.
Senate Bill 427. Looks like a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're on the purple sheet voting list, and I guess we're going to start with David.
I thought this was pink.
Oh, pink, lavender, I don't know.
Anyway, most of the bills with my name associated with were on the list yesterday, and you didn't get to it, so we're picking up basically from where you left off yesterday. The first bill on your list is Senate Bill 757. You have a reprint in front of you. The bill has been amended to be identical to House Bill 1007 as it passed the House. The bill prohibits an insurer that offers life insurance or disability insurance policy or contract in the state from taking adverse actions related to genetic testing against an applicant or insured. In addition, carriers may not discriminate against an individual by taking certain actions related to coverage based on medical information, including the results of a genetic test for which there is not a relationship between the medical information and the cost of the insurance risk. And the reprint in front of you is amended as I just described. The First Amendment is technical. The Second Amendment, which takes you through pages 2 and 3 of the reprint, strike references to long-term care insurance from the bill. And then there's many clarifying changes made on page 3 of the reprint, including specifying that the carriers may not unfairly discriminate against an individual related to coverage based on medical information, prohibits carriers from accessing sensitive medical information without consent, and prohibits carriers from mandating genetic testing or full genome sequencing as a prerequisite for life insurance or disability insurance. And as with these amendments, the bill would be identical as HB 1007, which is already in this committee.
Okay. Do I have any questions on this bill? Do we have a motion on Senate Bill 757? Senator Washington, and do I have a second? Second. Senator Kramer. All in favor of Senate Bill 757? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay. The next bill on your list is the cross-file to 757. It is identical as to what I just described. No amendments.
All in favor of the cross-file? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
The next two bills on your list are your second on from B&T, and you have a 150-page reprint. No. No, this is a much simpler bill. I'm going to describe House Bill 859 because B&T amended the Senate bill to be the same as the House bill as it crossed over to them. And your second because there's insurance component to the bill. As amended, the bill requires the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange to promote access to health insurance for child care professionals by partnering with interested parties, helping child care professionals obtain health insurance through the exchange or Medicaid, assisting these professionals who lose Medicaid coverage with finding alternative health insurance options, helping ensure health plan options meet the budgets and health insurance needs of child care professionals and their employers, and providing informational resources and assessing current levels of health care access across the child care community. Basically, the bill requires the exchange, the Maryland Insurance Exchange, to partner with the Maryland State Department of Education and others to help child care providers get insured, or if they lose insurance, to get reinsured.
Do you have any questions on House Bill 859? Or can I do it with Senate Bill 611?
Yes, you can take them both.
Because they're identical. Can I have a motion for House Bill 859 and Senate Bill 611? Senator Guile and Senator Ellis. All in favor of both bills, House Bill 859 and Senate Bill 611? All in favor? Should we take a roll call?
No,
Senator Hershey, should we take a roll call? You're okay. That was a unanimous vote, right? Okay, unanimous vote. Thank you.
And Tammy, 611 would be favorable with amendments. Okay, House Bill 176. This is the cross-file to Senate Bill 26, which was passed the committee a while ago. It's similar as amended in the House to Senate Bill 26. It establishes it establishes a public employee safety and health unit and requires a commissioner of labor and industry to head the unit. The point of the bill is to establish standards for protecting employees of public bodies from workplace violence as part of the MOSH program. The bill expands the existing Maryland Occupational Safety Health Program by subjecting public bodies to existing penalties and enhancing notice and reporting requirements associated with public bodies with regard to workplace safety. The House, in addition to all those changes to the MOSH program, the House added or establishes provisions relating to the use of body-worn cameras by correctional officers as established by the Commission on Correctional Standards. You have a couple amendments in front of you. There are 2 amendments to the bill, and you have a reprint, which is very, very thick. And most of the bill is as it passed the Senate. The additions by the House include the correctional officers, or body cameras for correctional officers and the standards developed by the commission. And to be clear, that while it may be a state, something the state has to do, local governments are not required to adopt body cameras for their employees who are correctional officers. On page 3 of the reprint, there's an amendment offered that is being also put on by the House, or will not, they're going to add this amendment, they're going to add body cameras to the Senate bill, but there was an amendment that came over that required that the guidelines be subject to collective bargaining. The amendment to the House bill would strike that requirement. And in the very back of the bill, there's a part of the law brought in to make sure that the existing penalty provisions in the bill do not apply to elevators in public bodies. So it just clarifies they are subject to a separate set of requirements, and the penalties in the bill that are expanded to public bodies will not apply to elevators. And another difference in the House and the Senate bill is the House also struck all the new penalties that were put into the Senate bill. So there are no new penalties in the bill that's in front of you. All existing penalties would apply whenever a public body violates any of the provisions associated with public safety.
Do the amendments first? What do we do?
It'd be favorable with amendment if you prefer this version.
Move favorable with amendment. Second.
So we have Senator Kramer and Senator Hayes, all in favor of House Bill 176, favorable with amendment. Yes, sir. Yes, Senator.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because these are body worn cameras, right? Mm-hmm. And are they subject to the same public request, Public Information Act request as with police officers or any other entities?
Yes, I believe they would be. There, if you go to page 3 of the reprint, you'll see all the requirements that have to go into the guidelines that they are going to establish for body-worn cameras.
Okay.
Any other questions, Senator?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay. So Senator Kramer motion, Senator Hayes seconded, all in favor of House Bill 176. Okay, unanimous vote, thank you.
And Tammy, that's favorable with amendments. Okay, the next bill on your list is a local alcohol bill. It's House Bill 784. It's actually a cross file to 662, which passed the Senate. There are amendments. As amended. Yeah, it'd be as was told to me, the 46th district, yeah. They always like to make changes in the 46th district, and the city senators support the bill as amended.
So Senator Guile motioned, who's going to second? Senator Mounts? All right, all in favor of the 46th district alcoholic beverages that has letters from local? Unanimous.
That's
Thank
favorable
you.
with amendments too.
Favorable with amendment, Tammy. Okay.
Okay. Next bill on your list is not a cross file. It's House Bill 820. It requires a carrier, a pharmacy benefits manager, or a private review agent that uses AI algorithms or other software tools for utilization review to ensure that the tools are used in a specified manner, which are detailed in the bill, but that would include the use of, that make sure that the use of AI does not result in discrimination. The bill also alters the information a carrier must currently submit in its quarterly adverse decisions and grievances report to include whether an AI algorithm or other software tool is used in making the adverse decision. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. It was sponsor only, and there are no amendments offered on the bill.
I'd like a motion favorable. Sure. I was going to say, Senator Lam, you and I were at the same meeting where we talked about, the doctors talked about this, remember? About AI? So,
Sorry, I thought we were on 861.
We're on 820. You can motion on 861 too, but right now we're on 820. Do I have a second? Senator Mounts. All in favor of House Bill 820? Unanimous vote.
Okay. The next bill is House Bill 861. This is also not a cross-file, well, it is cross-file, but the Senate bill is still in rules. House Bill 861 requires transportation network companies to provide each transportation network operator, which is also a driver in most cases, with a weekly fare and earnings summary that includes the total fares collected by the driver in a given week and the total amount that the driver earned that week, as well as the total amount earned from the total fares collected that week. And by February 1st each year, the transportation network company has to provide its information to the public, specified information to the Public Service Commission. There's a reprint in front of you. Senator Kramer has offered some amendments to the bill, and I would say most of these amendments are clarifying, and they, if you go to page 3 of the reprint, you'll see that it takes out operator and substitutes in transportation network company, and then it specifies that the total fares provided by the company's operators in a given week. Also, it's the total amount of any additional fees that were charged to passengers by the network company for the transportation network services in a given week. And it also provides that the total amount the operator earned from the total fares collected and additional fees charged by the transportation network company have to all be provided to the driver. And I think there's, regarding the information supplied to the PSC by the transportation network companies, there's an additional clarifying amendment there on page 4. The total time driven by operators while providing services for the transportation network company in the state. It just specifies where the company is located. Yes. Or you could do favorable with amendment.
All right,
I'll move favorable as amended.
I'll second it. Okay, Senator Kramer, Senator Ellis. Any questions?
With a question.
Okay, Senator Ellis.
Yeah, is it important to the Senate sponsor to get that bill out of rules and pass that? Is it possible to do that?
I think this is, I appreciate the question, thank you for that, but with passage of this, it'll be just fine, thank you.
Okay, sure. Well,
But I appreciate it.
That's very generous. If we have an opportunity, we'll get it out of rules. Okay.
So this is favorable with amendments.
I'd do the same for you. All in favor of House Bill 861? No?
The amendment's
Okay.
been adopted.
We're going to call the roll, Tammy. Oh, you're up? Okay, everybody? Unanimous.
Okay, the next bill on your list, if you flip the page, this is House Bill 974. This is also not cross-filed, and it had no opposition at the committee hearing. It requires the insurance commissioner to enforce the requirements that each carrier provide coverage for preventive services without cost-sharing requirements consistent with the federal guidelines in effect on December 31st, 2024. The commissioner may adopt regulations necessary to carry out the provisions of the bill, again, consistent with federal statute rules and guidance in effect either on December 31st, 2024 that enhance the scope of preventive services to the benefit of consumers in the state. You have a reprint in front of you. There was some concern that the bill as it passed the House could affect high deductible plans and people with health savings accounts. So the reprint in front of you was drafted. The language came from the carriers, but it was worked on by the Maryland Insurance Administration. And so the First Amendment is technical, and on page 2 or 3, you'll see the new language. And it preserves an enrollee's ability to participate in a health savings account. Again, there was no opposition at the committee hearing. And the amendment is okay with all the parties involved with it.
Okay, I have a favorable with them. It's not our amendment.
No, it's from the sponsor of the House bill,
So
actually.
it's just favorable.
No, it has to be favorable with amendment.
Favorable with amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion favorable with amendment on House Bill 974, Senator Mounts? Do I have a second? Senator Lamb? All in favor of House Bill 974? Okay, thank you. Unanimous vote, Tammy. House Bill 996.
Okay, the next bill, I heard some people talking about how to say I should have looked up the phonetical pronunciation, but I'll call it Phenibut. House Bill 996 requires a retailer that sells a Phenibut product to disclose at the product label the factual basis on which the representation is made. Retailers are prohibited from selling this product to anybody younger than the age of 21. If you recall from last year, these are similar requirements to the prohibitions on the selling of Tinaptin and Kratom passed last year. Phenibut is a controlled substance in several European countries and Australia, but is legal to possess and sell in the U.S. However, it is not approved by the FDA for clinical use. Some companies market it as a dietary supplement or sleep aid. Again, there was no opposition at the committee hearing. It was sponsor only, and there are no amendments offered.
Do I have a motion for House Bill 996, Senator Ellis? Do I have a second? Senator Guile. All in favor of House Bill 996?
That's favorable, Tammy.
Favorable? Okay, unanimous for favorable. Thank you. And now we have House Bill 1069.
This was heard yesterday. Actually, it should have been scheduled last week, but it got lost in the shuffle. House Bill 1069 prohibits carriers from selling, delivering, or issuing a health insurance policy, a life insurance policy, an annuity contract, or a health maintenance organization contract that contains a discretionary clause that purports to reserve sole discretion to the carrier to interpret the terms of the policy or to provide standards of interpretation or review that are inconsistent with laws in the state. Several of these discretionary clauses are already prohibited. This would expand it to all the insurers. There were no amendments offered. It was sponsor only, so there was no opposition at the committee hearing.
And there was no written testimony in opposition?
No.
So all in favor of a favorable on House Bill 1069? Can I have a motion? Senator Guile and Senator Lamb. All in favor of House Bill 1069? Favorable vote. Thank you.
Okay, next down, keep going down the list, House Bill 1082. 1082 requires the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange in consultation with the insurance commissioner as approved by the exchange's board to establish and implement a state-based health insurance subsidy program to provide subsidies to individuals for the purchase of health benefit plans in the individual market, basically through the exchange. The program must be designed to maintain affordability for individuals purchasing health benefit plans in the exchange and target individuals who experience an increase in premiums based on household income through calendar years 2027 compared to calendar year 2025. In establishing the parameters for the subsidy, the exchange must account for funding for the state reassurance program and uncertainties in enrollment. The bill terminates if the federal advanced premium tax credits are extended on or before May 31st, 2028. There is a concern out there that the tax credits that are available to people with lower incomes are not going to be able to help them purchase insurance through the exchange. So this will create a state program to provide supplements to those folks who lose the tax credits.
Senator Miles.
So the way this works, so if you have coverage and your cost goes up, then you could qualify for another subsidy. Is that how this works?
If the tax credits go away. This is designed that if there's no more tax credit at the federal tax credit, which I believe might actually happen, then the state would use the reinsurance funds, which they have apparently enough of, to supplement the folks who lose the tax credits if they meet the requirements for a subsidy or a tax credit.
And they have those reinsurance funds. It's their decision on how they want to use them.
Yes, there's enough reinsurance funds available to cover this as well as some of the other programs you've already passed this session.
Or to create a pool for small businesses or something.
No, this is strictly for the individual market.
Do I have a motion for House Bill 1082? Oh, come on, pay attention. Senator Guile motioned. Can I have a second? Senator Ellis. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 1082. Okay, we need to call a roll, Tammy.
This is favorable, correct? House Bill 1082, favorable. Vice Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Ellis.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Mounts.
No.
No. Senator Jackson.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Washington.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Guile. Yes. Senator Lamb.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Hershey.
Yes.
No. Madam Chair? Yes. 8-2, the bill passes.
Bill passes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Keep going. House Bill 1086, it requires that if anesthesia is covered by the carriers and Medicaid for a procedure for which a licensed provider issues an order, a carrier or Medicaid must cover the delivery of anesthesia for the entire duration of the procedure and medical care related to delivery of anesthesia for the procedure that is provided immediately before and after the procedure. Well,
That's what I was going to ask. Does the insurance company tell you the number of units or something?
Yeah, well, this had to deal with the insurance executive that was gunned down in New York. It was related to that.
Like an organ, like sitting off to the side and.
I'm sorry. Is there somebody here that can answer this question about anesthesia limitations? Oh, yeah. So, Matt, this is our question. Do insurance companies actually put a limit on the time? So why do we have the bill?
This is a response to a story that was over last summer. There was a particular company that was trying to change their anesthesia payment practices to a federal rule. And that federal rule was misinterpreted, and there was a hubbub about it. They backed off the policy, and it has gone away. This bill is a reaction to that story. The carrier is not unfavorable on it. It was about payments and parameters of time frames. It's not about it. They don't stop your anesthesia in the middle of the surgery and have you pop up.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that. So I guess we're passing this bill in preparation for any future change. There we go. Okay. So can I have a motion for House Bill 1086? Does it have amendments?
My goodness, Matt.
Senator Washington and who else? Senator Ellis? All in favor of having enough anesthesia to have your surgery? House Bill 1086. Unanimous vote.
Okay, moving right along, we're moving out of health insurance, and you're now going to move to auto insurance. House Bill 1098 requires the Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund to calculate and report its risk-based capital level in the same manner as other insurers to maintain a total adjusted capital level above a certain threshold and implement its rate changes in accordance with a prior approval by the Maryland Insurance Commissioner. The bill also requires that the Maryland Insurance Administration to establish a work group to study, among other things, the affordability of private passenger automobile insurance in the state. You have a reprint in front of you. There are a couple of amendments. They basically go to the very end of the bill. And on the floor, the House struck some language. So what the amendment does is it restores the language struck on the House floor that enables a one-time increase in MAFE's assessment and to apply the difference between the $20 million authorized in the uncodified language and its statutory amount to its surplus to enable MAFE to become compliant with minimum surplus requirements established in the bill. There was no opposition at the committee hearing, and these are the amendments that are offered. The Insurance Administration agreed with MAFE that they would offer these amendments to the bill.
Okay. And any questions? David's put a lot of time into this. Motion favorable for House Bill 1098 as amended. You moved it? Senator Washington? Do I have a second? Senator Guile. Okay. I was looking to see, once again, we're going to have a senator from finance serve on this work group. But the insurance commissioner or her designee will chair the work group. Do what? Okay.
Okay.
Seriously, all in favor of House Bill 1098 as amended? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next bill on your list is House Bill 1148, this is this is not a health insurance bill. You have a reprint in front of you. The bill is, the reprint in front of you completely changes the bill, so I'll just go as amended. The House Bill 1148 prohibits an insurer from refusing to issue a residential condominium unit insurance policy solely based on a prior lapse in coverage if the applicant under specified conditions. The specified conditions are spelled out on page 2 of the reprint. Again, there's 2 amendments to the bill. Amendment 1 alters the title and is technical, and Amendment 2 alters the bill as just described and specifies that the bill applies to policies issued after January 1st, 2026.
Can I have a motion favorable? Senator Gall, do I have a second? Senator Ellis. All in favor of House Bill 1148 as amended? Okay, unanimous vote, except that, well, you know Senator Reedy's not here, and Senator Washington's not in his seat. And Senator Hayes isn't in his seat. He got the vote, okay. Thank you.
Okay, House Bill 1174 is a local alcohol beverage bill from Montgomery County that increases from 1 to 2 the maximum number of Class BD, BWL licenses a licensee may hold. You have a reprint in front of you. There's amendments offered by the Montgomery County senators. And the amendments basically say that if you hold a second license, you have to have more food sales than alcoholic beverage sales.
Senator Kramer, Senator Ellis, all in favor, is there amendments or?
That's the 2, there's amendments, and it's supported by the Montgomery County Senate delegation.
So,
It's favorable with
everyone in
amendment.
favor of House Bill 1174 as amended, favorable with amendment. Everybody okay? Okay, favorable with amendment, unanimous. Okay.
Okay, moving right along here, House Bill 1292, and there is going to be an amendment to this bill, which I don't think I got into the packet. It replaces the term network directory with the term provider directory to conform with the federal No Surprises Act. The bill also alters the time period by which a carrier must update the online provider directory after notification from a participating provider of a change in information within 15 working days to within 2 working days. However, dental carriers must update the information within 15 working days. Directories must include a statement that advises enrollees and prospective enrollees to confirm the provider's or healthcare facility's participation in the network and the enrollee's health benefit plan. The Insurance Administration noted a flaw in the language in the back, uncodified language in the back of the bill, which referred to a commission. It should be the insurance commissioner. So if you go to the very back of the bill under Section 2, there's a change to, there's an amendment here that would change commission to insurance commissioner on page 8 of the bill.
Okay, and that is House Bill 1292 as amended.
And there was no opposition at the committee hearing.
Okay. Do I have a motion favorable for House Bill 1292 as amended? Favorable with amendment. Who moved? Senator Hershey? Or Senator Hershey? Senator Lamb? I thought I saw you go like this.
Senator Washington.
House Bill 1292, favorable with amendment, all in favor? Okay, unanimous vote, thank you.
Okay, House Bill 1301 prohibits carriers, Medicaid, and the Maryland Children's Health and Program from requiring prior authorization for a transfer to a special pediatric hospital in the state. That's basically all the bill does. You can't.
Thank you, Senator Ellis. Do I have a second? Senator Jackson? It's a good bill. All in favor of House Bill 1301?
No amendments.
Unanimous, thank you.
Okay, House Bill 1315. This also was sponsor only at the committee hearing. It requires insurance policies and nonprofit health service plans to include in their minimum package of child wellness services required under current law all visits for and the cost of childhood and adolescent immunizations recommended by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization. immunization practice on December 31st, 2024, or at a later date to account for new recommendations. The bill also specifies that pharmacists' authority to administer vaccines are based on the recommendations of the CDC's Advisory Committee, also in effect on December 31st, 2024. There were no amendments offered, and again, it was sponsor only at the committee hearing.
Pardon me?
It does, let me see if the fiscal note has any information about previous. There might have been something like this last year, but not related to basically putting in CDC guidelines in effect as of the end last year. So no, there was no prior introduction to this bill.
Last year, we had a bill about pharmacists doing immunizations with children over the age of 3. You're right, but this is a little bit different. Okay.
This is all within current guidelines, whatever is out there.
Okay, so was that a motion, Senator Washington? Yes. And a second? Do I have a second? Senator Jackson? Okay. On House Bill 1315, all in favor? As amended, right? Table with
No amendments to that bill.
No amendment. Oh,
It's
we need to call
favorable.
the roll. Tammy, we need to call the roll.
House Bill 1315 favorable. Senator Kramer?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Mount? No. Senator Jackson? Yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Guile? Yes. Senator Lamb? Yes. Senator Hershey?
No, you say no?
No.
Because it's vaccines.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Want me to help you with that?
7-2, the bill passes.
Okay. Right, moving right along. House Bill 1351. Again, there was no opposition during the committee hearing. It was sponsor only. It specifies that within 60 days after the date a carrier receives a completed application, the carrier must accept or reject specified providers for participation on the carrier's provider panel and send written notice of the acceptance or rejection at the address listed in the application. Basically, it limits the time that a provider has to make a decision on whether to put somebody on their network. The bill applies to applications from a licensed master social worker, licensed graduate alcohol and drug counselor, licensed graduate marriage and family therapist, licensed graduate professional art therapist, licensed graduate professional counselor, or registered psychology associate. You have a reprint in front of you. The National Social Workers Group, or whoever they are, pointed out that there's no longer a licensed graduate social worker. So I looked that up to verify that. So the amendment strikes licensed graduate social worker from the bill. Otherwise, there are no other amendments offered.
Motion favorable with amendments?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for somebody out here, Senator Jackson and Senator Mounts.
Okay.
I'll get you next time. There's a lot more coming. Okay, all in favor of House Bill 1351 as amended? Senator Washington, okay?
I've got one more.
Unanimous vote, thank you.
Okay, and it's not on your list because it was added at the very end of session. I was asked by the chair to put House Bill 1246 on your list. It's not really a cross file, but it tries to do the same thing as Senate Bill 773 from Senator Hershey. This is the cost accumulator bill. That would be health benefit funds, calculation of cost sharing contribution. Senator Hershey is suggesting that, and I have the reprint here if you want to look at the Senate bill again, but it basically would amend the House bill to look like the Senate bill.
Favorable.
I'll second.
Senator Hershey and Senator Guile.
Thank you.
Okay, we've heard this bill like 3 years in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
2, and I'm still battling it with them right now.
Okay.
We'll hold firm.
We'll go to conference committee. Okay. Favorable with amendment?
Favorable with amendment.
All in favor of Senate, together, House Bill?
We only have the House.
Okay.
Yeah, you only have the House
All
bill.
in favor of
Senate bill's
House Bill
already there.
1246 as amended. Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving along on your list, we've already done Senate Bill 427, so we're going to be moving to Senate Bill 614, and we'll take that up with House Bill 1020. They're amended to be identical. Starting with the Senate bill, generally prohibits a consumer reporting agency from including certain information related to medical debt in a consumer report, prohibits a person from using medical debt information included in a report to make a determination regarding creditworthiness, and prohibits a person or the person's agent whose primary business is providing medical services, products, or devices from disclosing any portion of a medical debt to a consumer reporting agency. We did discuss this bill yesterday, and it was held to discuss the definitions a little bit further. I have provided the reprint for you. Again, the definition at issue is on page 2, beginning at line 5 all the way down through line 22. And primarily focusing on the medical debt. At line 18, medical debt does not include debt charged to a credit card unless, and so it's this definition that has been at issue. There's disagreement about the term specifically and solely being used. I did speak with some advocates and stakeholders that have provided some information I can share with the committee. There are at least 4 other states that are using the solely definition, including Virginia and New Jersey, so closer neighbors of ours.
And it's used in the other bill?
It is used also in House Bill 428, which has already gone all the way through the process, and it's on its way for the governor's signature, as well as Senate Bill 349, which is on 3rd reading currently.
So it's consistent?
It's consistent. The definitions for medical debt are consistent, and that's what is in the bill before you is consistent with the 2 bills that are already moving toward enactment.
Have a motion favorable as amended. Senator-
So this,
Is the amendment limited to solely to
The amendment-
medical, not other things? Because I remember that was an issue, that
The credit card would have had to be solely for medical expenses.
solely for medical expenses.
correct.
And
And that's
originally
the
it had
definition that would be in place on this bill with the
Solely.
amendment. Solely.
Okay.
Senator Ellis?
No, my question's been answered. Thank you.
Senator Washington?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question about it. Do other states allow for other credit cards, and if you have medical debt on that credit card, for this to be included in that?
I have the list of states that use solely. I'm sure there are other states that handle this differently or don't have statutes in place, but I don't have that information.
But that's currently how the bill is written, right? Without
It's
the amendment?
currently written to be specifically as it was introduced. Again, the change was made to align it to bills that are already moving further through the process.
Senator, there's a bill that passed out of judiciary about liens because of credit card debt, and it uses the word solely, and the House bill uses, so just being consistent through the process.
There's, I don't know if this is on point to your question, but there is an issue with differentiating on a card that is not solely for medical debt, what portion of the credit card debt is for medical use and what portion of the debt is for other purchases that don't qualify as medical debt. So when the consumer reporting agency gets the information, they're given a name, they're given the balance, they're giving the name of the credit card and whether or not the person is current on there, but there's no other delineation of what those charges are for on the balance.
And under this bill, there wouldn't be a look-back provision, because current law, you cannot use that. If you have a credit card, use your debt on that and have it protected so it doesn't go to the bureaus. if we do pass this, it would only be solely for, with the amendment, it would only be solely for those credit cards used for medical debt. Is that right?
Correct. It would be for a credit card that is solely used for medical debt and cannot be used for any other purpose, so that the consumer reporting agencies do not have to try to find a way to differentiate because the information they are provided isn't that in detail.
I support the bill. I would like to be recording a note on the amendment, though, but I'd support the bill.
You can take a roll call on the amendment.
We don't have to, but just. Well, I'm just saying, I wanted to be a note on it.
Senator Lamb?
Have heard a lot of conversation about this. I think, understand concerns. These credit cards, I think, from my perspective, are probably being used by a lot of folks that are in need. And so these are people that are probably some of the most challenged economically that need and use these types of cards. And so, I think it's a consumer protection issue, would be open to taking a vote on that amendment.
Okay. You can take a vote on amendment. Nathan was just confirming that. So can I have a motion for the amendment that is on page 2, line 20, where the word specifically is changed to solely? Can I have?
Just review again for me, please, Madam Chair, what this distinction means, and
Sure.
thank you.
So a card that is specifically used for the payment of healthcare services can have other types of charges on it as well. So for instance, you go to CVS and you're buying your medication, but you also buy a Coke and Funyuns and a pack of gum at CVS, can be both on that charge, and there's no way for the consumer reporting agency to differentiate between those cards. So it specifically allows both types of charges to be on one
Why does
card.
specifically allow that, but solely does not?
Because it can be given specifically for healthcare, but it's not limited to healthcare charges. Whereas a card issued solely for medical debt is limited to only medical charges. So the consumer reporting agencies can be confident that they cannot buy that, they cannot report on that debt. They cannot be confident in these specific cards that they're not reporting on that debt.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with this as well.
Could I ask a question really quick?
Mr.
Oh, yeah, please.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm hearing about these credit cards now. I'm curious, is this up to someone to say, I'm using this Visa card from Bank of America only for medical debt and that's all you need? Or there are specific credit cards issued by issuers for medical debt? I'm not.
Correct. There are cards issued specifically or solely for medical debt, and there are cards issued specifically for medical debt that can be used for multiple types of purchases.
So I would contact, say, Bank of America and say, hey, I need a credit card just for medical use, and they will give me that card if I qualify with credit score and everything.
I don't know if Bank of America offers that service, but assuming they have that type of program, yes.
But there are other banks out there.
Correct.
Or credit card issuers that have that kind of program.
That is their model, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm Googling it.
You Googling it?
Yep. Yep. Care credit card is offered by Synchrony, which is a big credit card company, to pay for medical expenses. And there's medical credit cards with Chase, Citibank, Citi Diamond, Wells Fargo, AAA, AARP, Upgrade, Triple Cash Rewards. Oh, that's details. Anyway, there's at least 6. Any other discussion, Senator Lamb?
Yeah. So, I think based on our research, there are very few, maybe no cards that meet the solely criteria, right? So, having it as specifically will encompass as many cards as possible, be the best consumer protection kind of version of this. But if you have solely, you will essentially cut out a lot of these cards, including like Care Card and others that you may have heard from. So, from the standpoint of wanting to help support constituents, help support consumers, the protection is in place best with the version as drafted. This is my opinion. But I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind is that, you can use the analogy of like electronic benefit EBT cards, right? And so those cards, if you were to go someplace and use it on, say, cigarettes, for example, tobacco, the card would stop you. You would not be able to complete that purchase. If you were to buy something else that falls under the qualifications of that card, then yes, you could. My understanding is that this all has to be programmed probably at the vendor level, not at the bank level, but it is potentially possible to do that. Similar to how those EBT cards are categorized. But again, some will say that requires some effort on the part.
So sorry. Go ahead, Senator.
I'm more confused now because I thought the chair said there are cards specifically only for healthcare, medical debt.
I'm reading one right now. Can I read it to you?
Yeah, please.
So, and I also remember when I worked in a dental office that there were cards that the dentist would basically, was for your dental work. So it was offered through the dental office. But this says medical credit cards can take the bite out of a big medical bill. Next time you have a big medical bill to pay, your healthcare provider may invite you to sign up for a medical credit card as a payment plan to cover the cost of the services. These cards are unique in the way they can only be used to pay for healthcare expenses.
So that's solely.
That's solely.
Yeah.
And if I may add just to what Senator Lamb was saying, I do believe there may be a way for the credit cards to determine, but this bill is putting the onus on the Consumer Reporting Agency and what the credit card companies are sending to them. The Consumer Reporting Agencies do not have that level of detail. So the prohibition may be more aptly placed on card providers to get at that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think we have a motion and a second on amendment for line 20.
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to work through this, man.
All right, we're going to take a roll call. The amendment is solely. That's what we're voting on, up or down on the word solely.
Wait, so yes is to change it to solely, or yes is to?
Yes is to vote for the amendment that changes it to solely.
Oh.
That's what we're doing. We're voting for the amendment. So yes, we keep solely. No, we go back to the
So
original.
no would keep it as drafted?
No, we keep it as
originally
drafted. Okay, which I'll vote no on.
Okay, Vice Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer.
Oi,
Yes, that would be a yes.
is there a way for the Consumer Reporting Agency, because I'm listening to what Amber just said,
And I did speak with them this morning, so I will try to convey what they have told me.
and so they're not going to be able to distinguish
Correct. The only data they are provided from these credit card
is the amount of the
companies,
debt.
the consumer name, the account type, the balance, and the current, whether they're current on their payments or not current on their payments. They don't know what type of charges are on the card unless that card is solely for medical debt.
And there's no opportunity for the consumer to then identify specifically what was on that card that was medical debt? They can't, there's no way for them to communicate that to the Consumer Reporting Agency?
So you're thinking keep every receipt from CVS and Walgreens and Walmart and circle the things that are drug-related and.
I would also say they did mention that there is, under federal law, treatment info cannot be provided to the Consumer Reporting Agency. They can't keep that or accept treatment info, so it's really hard for them to identify these charges under the
All
federal
right, this
law.
one's tough, but I'll go yes on the amendment.
Senator Kramer, yes. Senator Ellis. Yes. Senator Mounts.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Jackson.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Washington. No. No. Senator Guile.
Slowly.
Oh. Look, the delegate who sponsored this, she reached out to me about some concerns, and I just feel I'm going to go with no, just out of deference to the sponsor.
Senator Lamb, no. Senator Hershey, no. Madam Chair, yes. 6-4.
6-4, so the amendment remains solely. All right, we're going to vote the bill as amended. Do I have a motion for Senate Bill 614 as amended?
So moved.
Senator Hayes, do I have a second? Second. Senator Hayes and Senator Lamb, all in favor of Senate Bill 614 as amended? Bill passes, thank you, unanimous. Who did I
And
say?
House
Hayes-
Bill
Hayes and who?
House Bill 1020 is in the same posture as Senate Bill 614 with the solely amendment. A motion favorable as amended would be appropriate.
Favorable.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of House Bill 1020? Senator Gall, you with us? Unanimous vote.
Next on your list is going to be Senate Bill 671. This is the Office of Cemetery Oversight, Study of Death Care and Funeral Practices, which simply requires the Office of Cemetery Oversight to consult with the Departments of Health, Labor, and the Environment and conduct a comprehensive study of the public health and environmental impacts from death care and funeral practices in the state. There is a reprint in front of you that displays amendments to be offered both by the vice chair and the chair. On page 3 of the bill, you will see there is a number of entities that the office must solicit input from. And there have been 5 additions to that. That is the amendment offered by the vice chair. It just expands the list to make it more holistic. And then on page 4 at the back, which was discussed yesterday, is an amendment offered by the chair as requested by the Department of the Environment, simply extends the interim and final report dates. A motion favorable as amended would be appropriate if there are no questions.
So moved. Senator Hayes, who has a second? Senator Ellis, all in favor of Senate Bill 671 as amended? Favorable with amendment? Unanimous vote? Okay,
We're moving on to page 4 of 5 in your pink sheet at the top. House Bill 424. This is the Prescription Drug Affordability Board Authority for Upper Payment Limits. So House Bill 424 is similar to Senate Bill 357, which passed the Senate earlier this session. Generally requires PDAB to determine whether it is in the best interest of the state to set upper payment limits for purchases and payer reimbursements of prescription drug products in the state that in the board's determination have led or will lead to an affordability challenge. PDAB must take several things into consideration in making the determination, but if PDAB does not make the determination, PDAB must establish a process in consultation with stakeholder council and then set upper payment limits in accordance with that process. Before setting an upper payment limit for all purchases and payer reimbursements in the state, except those specifically excluded, PDAB must set upper payment limits on 2 prescription drug products in accordance with the action plan as approved by the Legislative Policy Committee, and those upper payment limits must then be in effect for 1 year. The amendments generally conform the bill to the Senate crossfile as it passed the Senate, but there were a few other technical amendments that needed to be added onto the bill. At page 5, there is a clarifying clause added on subsection D, just says to the extent practicable is added. At page 7, there's clarifying language replacing the board may not establish with the board may not apply a new upper payment limit to a drug in a current shortage. And page 8 just clarifies that the board can set the upper payment limits through regulations as specified. And finally, at page 11, it just alters some entities that are excluded. So instead of listing all the federal entities, it just ties the application to those that the state would be preempted from affecting under federal law. Otherwise, the bill is identical to what passed the Senate.
I end at page 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, my page number's at the bottom because it's a reprint. There are more than 9 pages. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I did not specify. You're correct.
Senator Hirsch, you have questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just on these amendments, I mean, these are amendments that HGO added to.
So the ones that have my notes next to them are new amendments that HGO added. The other amendments are just conforming to what this committee and the Senate passed over to the House. So it looks like a lot more changing than there is, but the majority are conforming other than those that I pointed out.
Right, but I'm just trying to remember to the bill hearing when it was, the House bill was presented over here. Were these amendments discussed then?
We did not have a hearing on the House bill.
That's why I didn't remember it.
Yep. We've been moving them in conjunction. These were really just some clarifying final amendments that were added on in the House.
They're added, I guess that's where I'm kind of
Right.
stuck. They've been added in the House, but this is the
And
first
so
time we've even
This is the first
seen them or
time,
discussed them.
only the ones with my notes that are
Correct.
clarifying.
Right, because the other
The other
amendments.
ones were on the Senate bill as passed by the Senate.
Correct, and that's what I was saying, that, so the Senate bill we know about.
Yes.
Obviously, because that's what we passed, but these amendments are just being added now because the House is adding them to our bill, to the Senate bill.
The new clarifying amendments are being added to the Senate bill and the House. That's correct. So they will now conform.
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to just hold these, Madam Chair? Would it be appropriate to hold this bill so we could? Just the first time I've seen them.
Well, if I remember right, you didn't vote for them the first time.
Well, it could possibly change my mind. I mean, I'm thinking that these amendments could be so.
The only amendments that are new to the body have my notes and are generally adding clarifying language throughout the bill. The other amendments just. Yep.
I'm just, again, it's a big bill that we've worked on, I think, for a couple years now as well, too.
If we hold it, are you gonna vote for it, John?
I will make it a point to study these clarifying amendments.
You know what? Today's Wednesday. We'll have it on the floor Friday, third reader Monday. I'm going to ask you not to hold the bill.
That's fine, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Good try, good try, good try.
Senator Ellis is looking at me like I'm really mean. Can I have a motion for House Bill 424 and Senate Bill 357 as amended? Senator Guile, do I have a second? Senator Washington seconded. All in favor of House Bill 424 and Senate Bill 357 as amended? We need to call roll.
We already voted the Senate bill. This is just the House bill before
Oh, I
us.
thought these amendments were new on both bills.
No, the clarifying amendments were added on the House. The House is voting, the Senate bill is on the floor in the House already, and
Okay.
these are on that.
Okay, correct. We have a motion, Senator Guile and Senator Washington, on House Bill 424 as amended. We need a roll call, Tammy.
Okay. House Bill 424, favorable with amendment. Vice Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Ellis?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Mounts? No. Senator Jackson? Yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Guile?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Lamb?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Hershey?
No.
No. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes. 8-2, the bill passes.
Do we need to vote the Senate bill?
No, we've already voted the Senate bill. We will get a concurrence back, but.
And that's what I'm saying, see, they're amending our bill. We're now amending.
So you'll have another bite at the apple.
Oh, really? I'll take a lot of bites.
Okay, who's ready for House Bill 956?
House Bill 956 establishes the work group on artificial intelligence implementation to monitor issues and make recommendations related to AI, including the regulation of developers and deployers and implementation of consumer protections. The work group must report its findings and recommendations annually each year on July 1, beginning in 2026. You have another reprint before you. Several amendments are being offered on the bill that page 2 of the bill that adds members, and to that membership also adds some of which will be now appointed by the Senate President or the House Speaker rather than the governor appointing everybody to the work group. So the representatives that are being added are from academia, nonprofit civil rights and liberties organizations, nonprofit organizations with artificial intelligence expertise that focuses on consumer protections, representatives from the cybersecurity sector with expertise in artificial intelligence, 2 representatives from nonprofit organizations that focus on establishing data privacy protections, and 2 representatives from that labor that work with the AFL-CIO Tech Institute.
Who's chairing the work group?
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yes, I just.
Is this the University of Maryland? Is this one?
The staff is going, that's who's staffing the work group. The University of Maryland Center for Health and Homeland Security will provide staff for the work group. That is another amendment at the request of Jewett. They did not wish to have this responsibility. Yeah.
Senator Washington?
Yeah, thank you, Madam
Doesn't
Chair.
have a chair.
I know there was a lot of,
Here it is on the bottom, the Senate.
I know there was a lot of opposition to the bill when it came over here. There was something about there being an imbalance of folks on the commission.
That's why we added.
I can't seem to find the reprint here.
It was yesterday.
You did. There is a new reprint. House Bill 956 should be in one of your stacks, but I believe Madam Manager has additional copies.
Just 1 second, Senator.
Okay. Yeah, I was concerned about that, so I really wanted to see it. I don't know if we have time to hold it so I can review
We
it.
can hold it to the end of the calendar. I'm just worried about time,
Okay.
and this is Chair Wilson's bill, so.
I realize who builds it is.
Well, he's been patient, he's been waiting, you know, he was happy to entertain amendments on his bill, but.
Yeah, we've been patient here too.
Yes. Before we hold it till the end.
Yeah, can-
Any other questions?
Thank you. Our friends in labor were concerned about a lack of representation on this work group. Do we have, I'm trying to find
Yes.
amendments where they were.
So
Amber,
it's
can you?
at the top of this page that hardly has any writing on it. At the very top, it's hard to,
Which page?
it would be
Oh,
page 3,
okay.
but it's not numbered because of the,
It says 2 representatives that work with the AFL-CIO Tech Institute.
that was requested by labor representatives, specific language.
And have we heard from them that that satisfies their concern? Because I see AFL-CIO.
Don Edwards is shaking her head yes.
All righty then.
It will ensure that people know AI if they're working with the Tech Institute.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification, Madam Chair.
What makes the balance now?
So it was odd. What's
so-
the number?
On page 2, there are, starting with number 7, these are all the new representatives that are being added. So there are, this adds 13 new members to the work group. So significant sized work group.
But we took away some.
We did reduce the number, so there are, most of these are 2 representatives. There are 3 representatives from academia.
Will Senator Hayes be on it? Absolutely not. Can we add him? Can we do an oral amendment?
Hard pass. So we have academia, we have tech council, we have e-commerce, we have biotech, we have real estate, we have healthcare, we have education, we have education and academia. We have nonprofits, we have
Consumer protections,
consumer protection, cybersecurity,
data privacy protection
privacy.
organizations.
As well as we have the University of Maryland Center for Health and Homeland Security staffing it, so I'm sure we'll have input. So I don't know who else could be added. It sounds like everybody. But we'll hold it to the end of the calendar if you want to think of someone else. Senator Millian?
Yeah, I have a question. I was just looking through the bill folder, and MedChi had expressed the fact that even though there are healthcare folks on there, that it doesn't specify that it's necessarily anyone that has a clinical background. So you could have, I guess, 2 healthcare executives on there, but no one who actually, sees patients or does anything like that. So.
If we could do a verbal amendment, either one from healthcare and one clinician. Or
Right.
one
Physician,
physician,
at
however you
least
want.
one clinician.
Yeah.
Clinical experience.
Yeah. with-
Clinical experience, yeah. Well, all right, well,
of those 2.
One, yeah.
okay. Anything else before we hold it till the end of the calendar? Okay. Pardon me? I didn't hear what you said. I don't know. It's pretty balanced. If you want to add a gardener, we could do that. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Amber, you want to go on to the next?
Yes, Madam Chair. Next is House Bill 1046. This was also on the voting list yesterday. It was held for a bit of a technical amendment, but just as a reminder, the bill prohibits a mechanical repair contract from containing a provision excluding coverage for an issue with the motor vehicle identified in a technical service bulletin, and prohibits a guarantor or provider from denying a medical repair contract claim because the claim was made for an issue that is identified in a technical service bulletin. And I hesitate only because this amendment, offered by Senator Hershey, adds the word solely.
Yes.
2 places in the bill at the very back page 5, requiring that precluding coverage solely for an issue with the motor vehicle identified in a technical service and contract claims solely because the diagnosed issue. So it's just clarifying that if the issue is solely based on what's in the technical service bulletin, they can't deny coverage. But if it's based on, they're denying coverage based on other reasons that are absent the technical service bulletin, they would still be authorized to do that.
So someone shared an example with me today. If you hadn't changed your oil for like 50,000 miles and now your engine blows up, but there's a technical amendment, something about the engine, that you can't say, well, it's because there is a technical, yeah. It was really because you didn't change your oil for 50, that's what
No
they're trying to get at.
maintenance,
If
right.
it's abuse or something, that it can't just be the technical.
Precisely, Madam Chair.
Do we have a motion for?
Move favorable.
As amended, Senator Hershey and Senator Mounts? Okay. Solely. I'm going to dream about that tonight. All right, all in favor of House Bill 1046 as amended? Okay, all right, unanimous vote, thank you.
Next on the list is House Bill 1294. This subjects earned wage access products to the Maryland Consumer Loan Law and other related statutory provisions that regulate entities that provide consumer credit. The bill explicitly treats certain earned wage access products as loans and requires the licensing of entities that offer earned wage access products. Finally, the bill establishes restrictions around the acceptance of tips, costs, and fees associated with obtaining an earned wage access product and modifies the state's credit licensing structure to account for new products, services, and fees. There are no amendments and no fiscal impact.
Senator Washington? I'm sorry. Is that okay? Okay, Senator Washington.
Thanks for being okay. I know there's some discussion around the tips, that not all the companies accept tips. I heard that there's no amendments to the bill. Is there a potential amendment to remove tips from the legislation?
No, but what this year's bill does is it starts at 0, right? So
Yes.
tip, instead of showing like, some things here, like a 20% tip right up front, you have option of 0 and then whatever's next after that. So if you're the consumer, you would see 0 tip as an option. Some of the companies make most of their income on the tips, and the interchange charges and not on other charges. They're all different.
Right. Isn't that part of the problem, though, that they make solely their money from the tips, though? And that they're getting all the money from their tips, and folks I've heard from consumers that use it, and then also some folks in the room that say that there's this thing that comes up and you can't leave it unless you put something in, either whatever number, to go to the next phase.
But if it comes up with 0 as an option, you click on 0.
So under the bill, it must start at 0.
Yes, in the bill.
So, and that's on page 4 at line 5.
Okay.
Okay. Senator Ellis? Was that your question? Senator Kramer?
Oh, boy. I don't know, Madam Chair. I love my friend Roger Mano sitting there, but I just do not love this bill. And I think there are still lots of concerns that we are going to be taking advantage of those who can least afford it. I think this is still a work in progress. My recollection, again, because there are no amendments, that the Attorney General's office pointed out that the actual APR of the fees comes out to, I don't know how many, 150%, 170%. And I just have a whole lot of concern about what we're going to be exposing our most vulnerable to. At the moment, this industry seems to still be thriving in the state of Maryland under current Maryland law. So I just believe that if they are in the marketplace now and competing in Maryland, this just sort of creates a Wild West scenario that conflicts directly with what we did with payday loans. And I am not sure why we are here on this bill when this industry is competing in Maryland right now under current Maryland regulations. This does away with those regulations and says for this specific industry, we are going to forget about the protections we have put in place for all the other folks who are making in the lending business. And for this one particular industry, we're going to push that aside and I think expose, again, our most vulnerable who are taking advantage of this product, and they're doing that because they're desperate for cash. And yet they're the ones getting caught up in the cycle of doing this, paying these fees, paying this quote-unquote tip, which I think is incredibly fraudulent, that they market it as a tip. It's a fee. And I get it that there's this false representation that, well, it's voluntary. Well, I do believe that most of the people taking advantage of this are also going to believe that somehow this tip is going to help them get the product. So I just don't think in good conscience I can vote for the bill, Madam Chair. I'll just say that.
Thank you, Senator.
So thank you.
I'm going to ask the analyst, but in a minute, let's hear Senator Washington's question first.
Maybe she can answer some of my questions if you want to go to her first.
I'm sorry.
If you want to go to her first to answer, she might be able to answer some of my questions with what she's about to say.
Okay, do you want to?
Respond to Senator Kramer. I don't think there was a question. Did you have a question? I didn't hear a question in there. It was more of a statement about why.
So some of these companies are already licensed. If I understood the commissioner properly, if we pass the bill, he does get to have oversight and enforcement against all the companies operating. Is that correct, Amber?
Correct.
So it does give the commissioner oversight.
Right now, 5 of the companies operating, well, 4 are licensed. 1 has an application pending for licensure in Maryland. Most of them do not rely on tips. There is 1 company that does. Which one? Earn In. And it is licensed as a collection agency and a credit services business.
Senator?
I would be happy to offer an amendment that simply limits the bill to licensing for these companies. If that is the goal, then let's license them, give the commissioner enforcement, but I don't know why, in order to license them, we have to throw all our usury laws out the window at the same time. So if you wanted to try doing that, I'd be all on board with that proposition.
We haven't discussed that. That's a big amendment, and we didn't discuss that in a hearing at all. I mean, when you take an amendment that wipes out a bill, that's kind of a big deal.
Well, no, it sounded like if licensing is a positive, then that may be the only positive in the bill. And, but otherwise, I just, yeah.
Senator Washington?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. No, we've heard from both sides on this issue, from the folks that own these businesses and then others that don't, that are advocates for it, and even the commissioner. And then we heard from an independent auditor that said that a majority of folks that take advantage of this are women and are low-income folks that live in the state. And even so, when they try to use this to help pay some of the emergencies that they have, that it doesn't come fast enough for that emergency. And even so, a lot of these folks that take it, you know, they're working so hard, they have to work multiple jobs in order to pay back this thing that we're about to call a loan soon. And so I found it concerning that we didn't even consider any of the opposition's amendments at all. And I just can't vote in good conscience knowing that there's so many families in my county and places and people around the state that will take advantage of this, hoping one day they'll be able to pay it off. But in order to take advantage of it, in some cases they have to pay a tip, and it just becomes really concerning. So I'll be voting no on this.
Okay, I do want to correct one thing. They don't have to pay a tip. The tip screen is there, starts with 0. So there's no requirement to pay a tip. And it was really, the sponsor of the bill was very concerned about there being a constitutional issue. I don't quite understand it. I'm not a constitutional attorney, but that there was a constitutional issue if we didn't show that opportunity. I have a couple, I know, Roger, you're here. Who else is here that represents these companies? Anybody else represent pay active earning. Do you want to come up to the table for a few minutes for me? I'm not going to have you testify. I'm going to help answering questions. One of the things I think I just heard Senator Washington say was that people can't get the money in time. It's my understanding that there are processes to get the money immediately if you need it. You might pay a little extra with some companies. Yes.
Because that came from that statement I made. I think you might have walked out the room when I asked the question, but it was made by the department, and they conducted an independent assessment, and that was one of their findings that they found. These folks didn't speak to that at all.
Well, I've had a lot of meetings on the bill, and it's been addressed in every meeting. So maybe I had to go testify in another committee.
I'm sure you did. Yeah.
I'm typically here. God knows. So one question: how quickly can the money be delivered? Accessible, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, so the money can be accessible immediately. We had testimony that the money that's available immediately is what is typically the 4-fee option, which are capped in this bill, what the maximum fee could be. The free option, which is available with all the companies, goes along the debit rails, just like you would go with Venmo or another company, and that can take 2 to 3 days, sort of the normal money transfer window.
Just like you pay extra for overnight shipping, you pay extra to access the money immediately.
Absolutely. And one of the points that I know Delegate Amprey made in the House, I believe he made it here, was, there are people who use this product who plan ahead and say, today's Friday, I know I'm going to need this money next Thursday, I'm going to put it in today. There are other people who don't, and they're willing, they're ready, willing, and able to pay the $1, $2, $3, $4, whatever it may be, as a fee to get the money instantaneously.
And I understand there is possibility of abuse, I do, but I also understand that people get a sick kid, they get a flat tire, they have to pay their car insurance, there are emergencies that happen that you just can't wait till payday. I mean, look, I can remember being newly married and having a jar that we would go get quarters out of to buy milk the 3 days before payday when, we were getting paid once a month. But Senator Washington, do you have more questions? Anybody on this panel that you'd like to ask a question to?
Yeah.
Or you've already made your decision, you're not voting for it, you're done?
Well, maybe they can convince me otherwise.
Okay, well.
Yeah, maybe let me put that on record. Maybe they can convince me otherwise. It was said that we can. Your response to the chair was that it comes immediately, but you have to pay a fee. Is that right?
Two different scenarios. So
the chair said if you needed it as an emergency, you wanted it. It's kind of like you pay Cash App and you say whether or not you want it now or it's in your bank in 3 days, and then they come up with a fee. No one knows how that's even calculated sometimes, but can you speak to, one, the calculation for that emergency fee that the chair is talking about?
Yeah, I can.
And then just about, like, how do you calculate that fee too?
In the bill, if it's under $75, the fee is capped at $5. If it's over $75, the fee is capped at $7.50. It is exactly like Cash App. You want your money immediately, you pay a little bit more. If you're willing to wait the extra day, you pay nothing. I do want to tell you the average tip you should know is $1. And it's voluntary.
What was it? It was maybe the
for my company, which has tips.
That's
the
one company.
Tip is $1. Well, there's other companies do it, but we do it. Yes.
But you said that's $1 for your company, right? That you represent.
If someone chooses to tip, and the bill will be defaulted at $0. And I will say, and if we talk about tips, Act Blue does tips.
I don't get why that's.
Act Blue does tips.
Yeah, Marvin
and there's
told us
no
that too.
default to $0 on that.
Yeah, I hear you. So, can you speak to my question, sir?
So ask the actual calculation?
Correct. Yes.
So I think it varies from company to company. I think the highest I've personally seen for any fee for any amount, I think was about $4.50. I know I'm sure there are cases where it goes above that, but this would cap it in the extreme case. Yeah. And there can be fees as little as $1 or $2. It is company by company, and I don't have the math with me, but.
If I may, Senator Washington?
Sure.
We did hear testimony that the average fee across all providers was $3.50.
The average fee?
The average fee paid when the Office of Financial Regulation did its kind of survey was $3.50 was the
If I may, Madam Chair.
And then what I heard, because I know they spoke to that the average tips are only $1, but the independent folks said it was about between 14 million and 16 million that these companies make a year on tips. So I don't want that to be lost on the folks. That's what the independent person said to us in the committee.
And am I correct in recalling this hearing, there's no collateral or anything like that with any of this, right?
No.
No recourse, no collateral, no credit checks.
No consumer data.
Right. There's basically, here's my employment, here's my information.
Yep.
I need my money sooner, and then whatever goes, but there's no collateral.
Not at all.
The only
And the
consequence.
testimony I heard was that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
go
interrupt you, but testimony I heard is when the pay isn't there, that the company actually eats the loss.
Correct. There's no recourse. There's no ability for one of these providers to reach into the bank account if there's nothing in the bank account or exert any kind of recourse whatsoever.
Thanks.
Frank, will this make all companies licensed? If we pass this bill, all the companies operating in Maryland will have to be licensed? We will no longer have the unlicensed people doing?
Exactly right. We were proactive last year. We tried to meet with OFR before the bills were ever introduced to say, hey, we want to get licensed. We want to be good players in the industry. We came forward with the bill. Ultimately, they introduced the bill last year. But yeah, we're for the licensing. We're for the regulation. We want to be good players. We are operating in the state and, just trying to be good players.
And the, I'm sorry, I'm tired. Commissioner Salazar did not come in opposition this year. He came in favorable, but only oral testimony, or info.
I believe it was
oral
informational.
testimony. Pardon me?
I believe it was informational, Madam Chair.
But not in opposition. Last year, he was very opposed. But this
It was
is
a different bill.
Different bill.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Since we're having the opportunity to make inquiries, if I may. So let me ask you a question. Are you competing in the Maryland marketplace right now, or you're not doing business? None of your companies are doing business in Maryland?
No, we all are.
No,
We all.
All of them are doing business right now in Maryland?
correct.
Okay. So this bill is not going to mean that somebody whose car breaks down, they get a flat tire, they need to pick up a gallon of milk for the kids and they can't wait for their paycheck, is now going to have that ability. They can do all of that right now through your services. That's a simple yes or no. Yes or no?
Yes, but
Okay, thank
the
you.
Office of Financial Regulation, Senator, has issued a guidance. This was the summer before last,
Right.
in August, in fact, the end of August, in which it became clear to the providers that they would become regulated, that they hadn't been regulated previously, and so the companies got together and proffered legislation, met with the former vice chair, now the county executive of Baltimore County, to introduce model legislation. And that began the process. And subsequent to that, OFR came in and offered a different bill, and there was a
No, and I
robust
appreciate
conversation
all
last
of
year.
it. The answer is yes. They're all competing right now in the state of Maryland. This bill is not going to change that at all.
This bill sets guardrails.
What the guardrails this bill sets is that the usury laws that now apply will be wiped out, and the industry will be making that much more money on every one of these transactions. So that's what the bill does. And with all due respect to all of you, I think you're all wonderful. The fact of the matter is, very often when a particular industry comes in and tells us they're looking to create model legislation,
Senator,
that
right now,
doesn't
there's no
necessarily-
regulation or laws
Roger,
on this.
please allow
It's
me
wide
to
open.
finish what I'm saying. I already shared the love with you, brother. You know I care
I
for
love you too, Senator.
But the point is, very often when we get model legislation from the industry, it doesn't necessarily benefit the consumer. And in this case, I am very concerned that those who can least afford it, who can avail themselves of the product right now. So anybody who wants this product can get it.
Do you
right
believe
now.
that the current state of law and regs as they exist right now are more favorable or less favorable to consumers than a bill such as the one before you that regulates the space?
Then all of the consumer groups.
No, that's just a question. I'm asking
all
you a
of the
question.
consumer groups evidently are wrong, and the Attorney General's office has it completely upside down.
Do you
because this industry is coming in and telling us what a good deal this is going to be. That's a red flag out of the gate.
If I may, Senator, this
All
is
right.
far different from the model legislation that we attempted to offer last year. In fact, this is the byproduct of legislation last year with the former Senator, well, always the Senator, Senator Klossmeyer, put together a work group where all interested parties, even the opposition, all came together, and we came up with compromise legislation, and we had a deal. We had a deal on the table where we shook hands, and we all agreed.
Frank, who did you shake hands with? Did you shake hands with the senator sitting around this
you're
room?
right. Senator, none of those people voted on the bill. But to your point, or have the power to vote on the bill, but to your point of it being model legislation, it is not. We came up with compromise legislation. This product began where that picked off.
And I appreciate
at the bill that we all worked on together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I do want to say, with the legislation, a tip screen has to be 0. Without this legislation, you can start your tip screen at 20. The tip screen has to say that it does not influence the loan, right? So that's something that helps. Yeah, you're all operating now, but you're all operating under different standards.
There's essentially two flavors, Madam Chair. There's the employer-integrated model, which is my client and David Carroll's client, and then there's direct-to-consumer model, and their tips are, my client, Pay Active, doesn't engage in tips, others do. So this bill sort of sets some standards across the board with regard to those who do tips, those who are employer-integrated otherwise, and it seeks to strike a balance. I think that that's what Chair Wilson has done with this legislation.
Okay. Do I have any other questions?
I just want to say, Hannah Gargiulo wanted to be here, but she can't be here right now.
Well, you're all doing a fine job.
Okay.
Okay.
Move favorable with amendments. Oh, favorable.
Amendments? It's just, no, because it's the House bill. It's favorable. Okay, so Senator Hayes moved favorable. Do I have Senator Gall move second? Let's call the roll.
Amen.
House Bill 1294, favorable. Vice Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Kramer.
No.
No. Senator Ellis.
Good pass for a while.
Pass. Senator Mounts.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Jackson.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Washington. No. Senator Guile.
Just to explain my vote real quickly. I mean, I love me some consumer protection bills. I do. But I do think that people are not as dumb as we think they are sometimes. And I think that sometimes they just need a little bit of money to get by. I mean, if they pay a couple bucks, whatever it may be, in order to help out until the next payday, there's nothing that's being reported to credit reporting agencies. There's no collateral being held. Let them do it. So my vote is yes.
Thank you.
Senator Lamb.
No,
Pass. Senator Hershey.
I'm in full agreement with Senator Guile.
Yes. Senator Ellis.
So
Chair's yes. So we
I
have.
gotta take the pass.
So I wanted to hear the opinion of Senator Guile, so I'm voting the way Senator Guile voted yes. Everyone needs some emergency cash every now and then, so I vote yes.
Senator Lamb.
I'm going to vote with Vice Chair.
Yes. Madam Chair, yes. 8-2, bill passes. 8-2.
Bill passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members.
Okay, Nathan, oh, that was Amber's last bill, aren't you lucky? Now we're Nathan, is Senate Bill 69, no, tell us about 696, you have something going on with that.
Yeah, so Senate Bill 696 deals with pediatric hospital overstay patients. I believe the Vice Chair was going to move to hold the bill again. My understanding is that the relevant departments are very close to agreement on some language.
Yes, indeed. As Nathan has stated, both MDH and DHS have been back and forth on some specific language. It sounds like they have reached some agreement on some language that they could live with. This committee, and speaking with the chair, is committed to moving this bill forward along with the House bill as it's on its way over here soon. So we hope to get back to this tomorrow with the bill that everybody could agree on and get this bill moving. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to hold this bill. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to hold it, thank you. Till tomorrow, right? We'll have it worked out by tomorrow. I'm getting really nervous. Okay.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. One bill.
Up next is House Bill 19. This is a bill that was on the voting list yesterday. It deals with the Board of Nursing, in particular extending the Board of Nursing for 5 years to 2030. The board sunsets in July of this year. And then the bill also it extends the authority of the Secretary of Health over board infrastructure operations, extends the termination dates for specified preceptorship income tax credit programs, expands eligibility for the Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment Program for nurses and nursing support staff, lowers the rotation hour requirement from 100 to 90 hours for the nurse preceptorship income tax credit programs, and then authorizes the Board of Nursing special fund to be used for infrastructure operations in line with the BRFA. There are some amendments all the way at the back of the bill. So the House originally passed this bill with an amendment delaying the CNA 1 and 2 program. It was related to a bill passed in 2024 that the chair worked on. And then the chair is offering an amendment that shortens that delay from 1 year to 6 months, and then makes some conforming changes to statutory provisions. So a motion favorable with amendment would be appropriate.
Can I have a motion favorable with amendment for House Bill 19? Senator Ellis and Senator Mounts. All right, all in favor of House Bill 19, favorable with amendment. Okay, come on, let's wake up. Phones down, arms up. Okay. Senator Kramer, are we voting on this one?
That's your call, Madam Chair.
I guess we're not. Okay.
I'm just along for the ride.
I know. And a pleasant ride it is.
We are tired. So we are tired.
Do we call the roll, Tammy? I don't know what to do. Senator Kramer didn't vote.
No, he's on board. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 216 is on the list next, with amendments that conform it to House Bill 19 as the committee just passed it. So a motion favorable with amendment is appropriate for Senate Bill 216.
Favorable with amendment?
Correct.
Okay, motion favorable with amendment on Senate Bill 216. Senator Ellis, second. Senator Guile. Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 216 as amended? I've forgotten, as amended.
As amended.
As amended. 216, favorable with amendment. Thank you. Senator Washington, you okay? All right, thank you. Unanimous.
This next bill on the list is House Bill 905. This is a bill that the committee heard yesterday. The chair is offering some amendments to the bill that would strike the bill as introduced, and then House Bill 905 would require the Maryland Hospital Association, in consultation with specific entities and organizations, to conduct a study related to hospital clinical staffing in the state. So the study must include a review of existing laws, accreditation standards, and regulatory requirements, a catalog of policies implemented by hospitals to date, and a summary of best practices for clinical staffing and shared governance in hospital operations, including best practices related to employee retention, hiring, and scheduling. The report is due in October of 2026. I'll note specifically that the entities that the Hospital Association must consult include the Nurses Association, the Maryland Organization of Nurse Leaders, 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East, and the Maryland Patient Safety Center.
Madam Chair.
Senator?
Nathan, we're directing a private organization to do something?
So the
I've never
language
heard
of
that
the bill,
before.
that's an excellent point. So the language of the bill specifically says that it is the intent of the General Assembly that the Hospital Association shall conduct the study. You're correct that there would be no recourse for the legislature if they ordered MHA to conduct it and MHA did not.
So we're requesting?
And I can say that MHA has specifically agreed to conduct this study.
Okay.
Yeah.
In general, is still misspelled under A.
Thank you.
So will we, so they're kind of like one side of the equation. Can we rely on their work product to be fair and balanced, like Fox News?
Do we have anybody here from the Hospital Association? Is Andrew, you want to come? How about, okay, I was just saying, I know we have some hospital representatives here, but.
Sure, they can come up too.
Len, you want to come up too?
That's all right.
Sure. It's a party.
1199 SEIU.
Okay. So.
So my So my question is, it seems kind of, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to learn. I'm kind of new to this body. I've only been here 7 years. I've never heard we telling or asking a non-governmental agency to do something that we will rely on to make decisions. What would you do to make it a totally reliable work product where we can rely on that to make decisions going forward?
Sure. I think that's a fair question. I'd say first to your first question, this would not be while there may not be a technical recourse, there's a natural incentive to do this in the fact that we are in front of you all the time, and we work with you all, and our word means something, and that's what we have to kind of trade on and get things done here. So that's a natural incentive for us to do this. We've also convened many work groups and submitted other reports to the legislature through similar language such as this on things such as workplace violence and many other issues in hospitals, emergency department wait times in the past.
Okay,
So this
thank
wouldn't
you.
be new.
Yeah, thank you. So, Len, you're here. Who you representing?
1199 SEIU.
So you'll be working with the Hospital Association with this, or is that why you're there, or?
Well, they are specific. I heard they are specifically named in the amendment as a group we would have to consult with.
You
for
consult?
For the
So when you say consult, the bill, would consult, that seems like an optional thing.
What's
Is that,
the,
how optional is that consultation
The
or?
language of the bill is shall consult. It's a
Shall.
requirement.
And so, how deep, do you feel comfortable then with that language as far as your involvement, 1199? Really?
We've not seen the language, not been consulted with the language. We would, I think, be much more. Okay. I think we'd be much more comfortable if an agency like the HSCRC did the study and involved both MHA and 1199. It would be a much fairer process.
The fiscal, if you were to ask
Go ahead, Nathan, say it.
Part of the discussion was that may result in a fiscal and policy note.
And right now, we're not passing any bills with fiscal note.
Charges at the hospital.
Yeah, because they're not paying enough assessments.
Under this language, we will pay.
Madam Chair, just since we're
This
inviting
is
people
our volunteer.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Senator Giles asking a question.
I was just going to say, Madam Chair, since we're inviting some people up, I think Ms. Kristen Bryce over there may have some other information as well, if the chair would be.
Senator Gao called you to the table.
She take it off a jack.
I'm going to take this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Take this out.
You want to give him?
Sorry, Chris. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know that I have super helpful information. But I did want to point out that this committee, I think, along with HGO, directed MHA in a letter to study ED wait times. And I think that work was significant, and it has been the foundation of a lot of other advances we've made around ED wait times and the work the hospitals have done in coordination with a lot of other parties.
So I guess that was, I guess, answer response to my question. So thank you. Tell me your name again, please.
Kristen, Bryce.
Bryce. So you're saying this has been done before, and you guys did a good job with that?
I think that the association did a good job with that study.
the hospital
And I
wait
think
time?
that it was similar in that there's not necessarily a really obvious center point to do the study, right? There isn't sort of one, right? These are hospitals, they're private nonprofits, they run their own staffing operations. So to think that there's not really an agency or a government entity that is close to the data and has all of the resources then to put a study like this together, MHA really does. And I think that, again, I was just trying to point out, Senator, that they've done that work in the past, and I think they were successful.
Okay. How long ago was that hospital emergency
Kristen, will
room?
you pull a microphone up to you?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
ED wait time study was 2 years ago, I want to say.
Okay, and what result was that study?
Well, it informed, I think, Senator, a lot of the work that's being done now with the statewide ED Wait Times Commission.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I add, I served on that ED Wait Times Commission, and the meetings were really amazing. They were at the Hospital Association, and we had doctors and, community activists, and I mean, it was a lot of people. It was maybe 25 people, and we came to every meeting and had a really good report, and things like the pediatric overstay has come out of that. A lot of other issues, and I thought it was very effective, but then it ended. So last year we passed a bill that made it a formal commission.
Thank you. So could I just amend to make sure we put, instead of 1199 being consulted, to be on the work group with you all instead of consultation? So they're in it?
Structured as a work group.
I wouldn't say that. They're in the back seat, not in the driver's seat.
I'm sorry?
1199 would be in the back seat, not the driver's seat.
So how do you get in? Well, we don't want anyone in the driver's seat. We want to study. So we want, cooperative. So how could we get you on the work group so, it can be balanced? Instead of just consultation.
Right. I mean, I think 1199 and the patient collaborative that is part of it, our coalition, would be much more comfortable if there was some independent organization doing the study and not the Maryland Hospital Association. In this current form, I've been consulting the client, and they would not support these amendments.
Okay. My questions are over.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do I have any other questions? Senator Lamb.
I guess the question back to I think somebody else brought up the HSCRC. So would that not be a cleaner way to do that? Since, in this instance, it sounds like it's the intent of the General Assembly to compel or to ask MHA.
That was the right word. That was good.
To the extent that we can compel, but to request that MHA do this. And I guess my question is why, because HSCRC is a state agency. You can actually require them to do this and saying it shall be the intent of the General Assembly to do this.
So let's hold this and ask the HSCRC if they have the capacity to do it, because they're in the middle of all the AHEAD model work.
Well, just note that the HSCRC should be flush with cash because we just raised their assessments on hospitals.
That's right. That's right. So can we,
I would just make one other thing with the HSCRC, and the HSCRC is our rate regulator, and this is a little bit beyond, the scope of what they look at right now when we get into staffing operations.
MHCC?
We have MHCC, since they do certificate of needs and for beds anyway. They're not the direct rate regulator.
We're running out of time, but we can have conversations in the morning. We'll have a voting session tomorrow.
Ben Steffen can agree to it on his way out the door.
He's on the way out the door. That's going to be a loss for that committee. So let's have that conversation. Okay.
Great.
Thank you. We're going to, as much as I hate to hold the bill, we're going to hold the bill.
Thank you.
Oh, next on the list. Next on the list is House Bill 933. This bill requires the Department of Health to review cost reports and data submitted by nursing homes that participate in Medicaid, including data related to revenues allocated to specified professions, and then report its findings each year by October 1, each year through 2029. So there are no amendments. There is no fiscal impact. There was no opposition at the hearing that was held yesterday.
So
Motion favorable would be
motion
appropriate.
favorable on House Bill 933. This was Delegate Martinez. Do I have a motion favorable? Come on, guys, we're almost done.
yes.
Senator Hayes, who's going to second? Second. Senator Guile. All in favor of House Bill 933? Favorable?
It's unanimous.
Then
Unanimous. Okay, thank you.
the next on the list is Senate Bill 679, which is the cross-file with amendments conforming it to the House bill. So a motion favorable with amendments would be appropriate.
Okay, Senator Ellis favorable. Can I have a second? Senator Guile. Is this Senate Bill 679?
This is Senate Bill 699, favorable with amendments.
679.
679.
Yeah, Senate Bill 679, favorable with amendments.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, okay?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, the last bill on the list for me, and then I believe you were going to go back to Amber for a bill that was held to the end of the calendar, is House Bill 1251. This bill requires a hospital that provides obstetric care to adopt specified obstetric services policies and then provide evidence to the Department of Health that the hospital has adopted such policies by January 1st, 2026. And then again, whenever those policies are updated. So then the department must adopt regulations to carry out the bill, including establishing the form and manner in which a hospital may prove to the department about the adoption of the complaint policy. On request, an insurer that issues or delivers medical professional liability insurance policies in the state must provide to the department information regarding the insurer's policy related to coverage for obstetric services, including coverage for vaginal birth after cesarean. There are no amendments, and there was no opposition at the hearing.
Second.
Okay, Senator Ellis, Senator Hayes, all in favor of House Bill 1251? Unanimous vote. All right, so Senator Washington, since it turns out we're holding two other bills, do you want to wait? Do you want to hold that bill that you asked about till tomorrow? We're going to have a voting session anyway. Okay, so we'll just hold, I forgot the bill number. 956. We'll hold 956 till tomorrow. So come back with some good suggestions.